It's the mechanical. Essentially, it is, first, I'll do the broad brush one, and we'll come back to it probably in the last resolution, my guess is as well here. What the federal government, the Congress really decided is they did not want to create too many new programs. And so they really are pushing it, particularly in the transportation field, pushing it through the existing programs. So we really have two major categories that we are receiving dollars through. The 5307, which is kind of the bus, or it's preventative maintenance, it's a whole bunch of other sorts of things, and can be used only for certain things. Secondly, it's in what's called rail modernization. And although that dollar amount is a lot less because of how the allocation came, it's a very complicated formula, and big older cities got a disproportionately large share of this, which we have kind of prodding FTA about lately. But it flows through that and into very specific categories. In terms of the actual mechanics, do we know yet how they're actually going to flow the money?
We're waiting for the details in the Federal Register. You and I were just confirming our understanding. I think we will be going out for contract in the April-May timeframe. And
that's how the money flows to us.
And then, well, we will be able to contract, we will have enough certainty through the grant process that we can go out with a contract, and then dollars out the door probably early summer. And I hope by next month we'll have more detail.
The real question is, on the flow, do we, I think I've stated this correctly, just correct me if I'm wrong. That is, we do not take an individual project that we have and seek a grant for it. We're rather seeking grant across the major category within a list already approved, which is the list you'll be acting on later today.
Right. Just to go through the mechanics, probably more than you want to know, there is a regional and statewide approval so that the projects are actually in the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program and deemed consistent and in conformance with the Regional Transportation Plan. Similarly at the state level, air quality. That will happen very quickly. JPAC will take that action, I believe, at the meeting next week, and the state should be like a week after. We expect the federal government will advertise in the Federal Register the actual proportionments, the final detailed numbers of these calculations down to the penny in March. We would then be with the STIP and the publication in the Federal Register, we'd be able to then apply for the grants. The grants essentially are like a line of credit. The money sits in a computer in Washington, and then as we expend the funds, as Beth was outlining, then we draw it down in a cash-like basis.
Yeah, the reason I asked that, because when you mentioned that 50% of it has to be expended within 120 days.
Obligated.
Oh, obligated, just obligated.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so that's pretty tough.
Part of the debate you're seeing even at the state level around the Oregon the debate about with the Oregon Transportation Commission, should they take virtually all of the money they're receiving and obligate it all within the first 120 days, because then that gives local government that has another part of the dollars flowing to them, gives them up to 2 years to actually expend. It's probably a little easier for the Department of Transportation to actually make those projects work. But this is the balancing piece that comes in. You've got to obligate, otherwise you lose dollars. And we may want other places in the country to lose it, and we can claw it back, but we don't want our area to lose it.
And I'm certain that all of the projects that we'd identify that we would use to make these applications are projects that ultimately benefit the agency long term. And so
yes,
over that long term, there's an expectation that as things do improve in the economy, then we would be in a better position to look at accelerating bus purchases and other capital-related activity.
Yes, we have very clearly, this isn't make work. This is about how do you get jobs to be able to do the kind of basic infrastructure investments that are going to be critical for us to be able to move forward. And I think we can achieve both. In fact, that's what this list is about.
Bob? A little bit off of that subject. You mentioned bus house cuts.
Yes.
And before I go off, I'm not going to say go off, before I, before I get long-winded regarding the cuts in Clackamas County, simply because I live in that area where the cuts are coming, I don't see how the two routes that, the 1.5 route that will be left will service the majority of the people, and maybe someone can sit down with me and show me how that service will help the people that live within 212 and Sunnyside.
What we will do, and maybe to be able to respond to you, we'll sit down and at least give you the logic on the 154, 155,
Right.
and 157, I think is right. Yeah, those 3 lines, and we'll kind of walk it through. Understand, this is just the starting of this process, so it's still got a lot of ways to go through. But we will make sure that probably Ken Zatterin is probably the best.
Can Jan schedule it with Bob?
Yeah, that'd be great. And understand, we're still, I mean, this is always, this is the difficult part. I mean, I've been in a Capitol in Salem the last few days, and will be for the next few days, and people come up to me and say, you know, I understand you have to cut, but don't do this at 63. Don't do that. You know, kindly kind of halt this. This is not easy stuff. But we will sit down and at least give the logic, and please give us your views too. I mean, this is ultimately something that you, the board, have to be able to approve. So, great.
Okay.
Lastly, then, if I may, you hopefully saw in the news stories about one of our Trimet operators who helped save a rider's life, and this really is. Not just might have helped, but did, and made a difference to that person, obviously, and to their family. Mel Myers, who I get to actually have gotten to see quite a bit on the 70 over time, is here. What I'd ask is that he and Steve Banta come on up and have a chance just to really be able to share a little bit more about that story, about what's really just very, very important. Steve, Mel?
Good morning. Mr. President, members of the board, on February 16th, Mel was operating the 15 Belmont, heard a commotion in the back of his bus, pulled the bus over to the side, got up and went back, and a woman, Miss Lowe, a regular rider of the 15, fell out of her seat. Mel, very detail-oriented, looked at her conditions, relayed through our dispatch the conditions of the customer, which the doctors have said credited Mel with that report in saving her life. They were able to come with the right people. The medical response knew what to look for when they walked in. They had conditions set up at a stroke hospital for this woman, and Mel's detailed report led to that. Also, while the woman was still at the hospital, asked to see if they could be reunited with Mel to appreciate him for what he did. Mel.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you. It's been very interesting. I got a chance to meet the doctor involved and saw the flight class, but I would like to, it's amazing. It's the size of a pea, and the scale of the doctor is just, it was incredible. Anyway, just a shout out to the training department. I've only been driving for 8 months, and shout out to the training department. Gave me the tools and the skills that I needed to be able to do this. And one of the things that one of my trainers said, if you see somebody have an accident or somebody down, and you go back to see what's going on, hit the emergency button, medical, before you get out of the seat, so that that's in process, because there's time lag. So I did that. As I got out of the seat, I saw the commotion in the mirror. Some people helped catch her, so I don't think she hit the floor. And when I got out, I went back and saw what was happening, and came back. And by that time, the dispatch was waiting for me, and I was able to move forward. And that's what the doctor was crediting, is that those seconds is what count.